Hello, everyone. Peace, love, and blessings. We are doing the Mark of the Beast presentation today. We're going to go ahead and start back at part one. I started backwards for a specific reason, but now we're going to start at one. So this is the Mark of the Beast. So the objectives of this presentation is to understand Father Yahweh's testimony, the law and the prophets, the two witnesses, right? Identify the mark of Yahweh according to the Holy Scriptures. Determine if Father Yahweh's laws have been done away with. Identify Abraham's seed. Determine if Father Yahweh's covenant people have been replaced. Determine if Father Yahweh will establish a new covenant with his chosen people. Discuss the importance of keeping the Sabbath day holy. Define birth and rebirth according to the Holy Scriptures. Explain the mark of the beast and what it means to accept it. Identify who the world worships, how they worship, and why the people of Yahweh must come out of the world. Discuss why it is important not to keep worldly traditions and the traditions of men. Warning against worshiping Father Yahweh in ways that he did not command. Discuss repentance and salvation. Determine if everyone who repents will receive salvation. Determine if the blood of Yeshua atones for the sins of everyone. Discuss salvation for the Gentiles. Discuss Yahweh's four severe judgments, the four horsemen and the revelation. Reveal the son of perdition and a blessing for Israel. His name is Yahweh. Yod-He, Wah-He. Yod-He, Wah-He. So the name of our Creator, Yod-He-Wah-He, which is the Tetragrammaton, these four letters, in Hebrew is read from right to left. It means Hayah, He Yod-He, he is, Ho-Weh, He Wah-He, he was, Yeh, Yod-He, Yod-He, he will be. So, the only time that we really see a reference to the highest name is in the book of Revelation, right? At the very end of the testimony. So we see it in Revelation 1:4. Yeshanan to the seven congregations of the house of Yahweh which are in Asia. Love and peace to you from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from the seven spirits which are before his throne. And again in 1:8, I am Aleph and Tav, the beginning and the end, says Yahweh, who is, and who was, and who is to come, the Almighty. And 4:8, and each of the four living creatures had 6 wings, they were full of eyes around and within, and they did not cease day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Father Yahweh Almighty, who was, and is to come. 11:17, saying, We give you thanks, O Father Yahweh Almighty, who is and was and is to come, because you have taken your great power and began to reign. And then 16:5, and I heard the Malak of the water say, You are righteous, O Yahweh, who is and was and will be, because you judge this way. So we see here that the highest waited until the end of his testimony to reveal who he is, right? And then we know, of course, Revelation 19:12, when it's speaking about Yeshua, it says, His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. So Yeshua Mashiach, the body, is going to be the only ones to know their name at the appointed time. But for right now, we know that Yeshua means Yahweh is salvation, or Yahweh is our Savior. Because obviously Yahweh is going to come back and save us and redeem us, right? And this is what the highest is given us to call him. Yod-He-Wah-He, Yahweh, Hayah-Hoeh, Yeh. All glory and praise be to Yahweh. This is what Yahweh the Father says, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread forth the earth and that which comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it, and spirit to those who walk on it. I am Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory I will not give to another, nor my praise to graven images. His name is Yahweh. Exodus 20:1-7. And Yahweh spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, your heavenly Father, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no hinder gods at all. They are in opposition against me. You shall not make for yourself any carved image, an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them nor serve them, for I, Yahweh your Father, am a jealous heavenly Father, punishing the children for the law-breaking of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to thousands who love me by keeping my laws. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your heavenly Father to bring it to nothing, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who brings dishonor upon or profanes his name. And we see that the highest chose the book of Revelation to reveal himself, because obviously the Revelation is a book for revealing. And then in Luke 8:17 it says, for nothing is secret that will not be made manifest, neither anything hidden that will not be made known and brought to light. And then again in Luke 12:2-3, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, neither hidden that will not be known. Therefore whatever you have spoken in darkness will be heard in the lights, and that which you have whispered in the ear in closets will be proclaimed upon the housetops. Revelation, by definition, is a surprising or previously unknown fact, especially one that is made known in a dramatic way. So the making known of something that was previously secret or unknown. So we've been reading these scriptures for years, and truly the highest has blessed my understanding as far as he has, so that I may reveal the interpretation as far as he has blessed my understanding, right? The revelation of the prophecy. Okay. And he said to me, do not seal the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He who is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he who is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he who is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he who is holy, let him be holy still. So essentially that's saying keep that same energy. Wherever you at right now is most probably where you're going to be at, because, yeah. So again, in 1 Corinthians 13:9-13, it says, for we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect comes, then that which is in part and perfect will vanish away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. Now we are looking in a mirror that gives only a blurred reflection, but then face to face with perfection. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, even as I am now fully known. But now these three things endure, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. And then in the book of 2nd Ezra, we see that the prophecy, the revelation will be revealed separately for those who are being saved and those who are unworthy. Those who are worthy and those who are not worthy. So like what's going to be revealed today, everybody can be a part of that revelation, but there are going to be things that will only be revealed to those who are worthy. So then 2nd Ezra chapter 14 verse 2-6 and then 45-47. And I said, here I am, Father, and I stood upon my feet. Then he said to me, in the bush I revealed myself unto Moshe and talked with him when my people served in Egypt. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt and brought him up to the mount of where I kept him by me a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, these words shall you declare, and these you shall hide. Okay. And then again 45-47. And it came to pass when the 40 days were filled that the highest spoke, saying, the first that you have written, publish openly, that the worthy and unworthy may read it. But keep the 70 last, that you may deliver those only who are wise among the people. For in them is the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge. And Revelation 10:1-7. And I saw another mighty Malach come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud. And a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had a little book open in his hand. And he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth, and cried with a loud voice as when a lion roars. And when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. And when the 7 thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. But I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, Seal up those things which the 7 thunders uttered, and do not write them. And the Malach which I saw standing upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and vowed by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven, and the things that are in it, and the sea, and the things which are in it, that there should be time no longer. But in the days of the voice of the 7 Malach, when he will begin to sound, the great secret of Yahweh would be finished, as he declared to his servants, the prophets. Spirit and truth. Yeshua in chapter 4, verse 20-26. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Yeraim say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Yeshua said to her, Woman, believe me, the hour comes when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You do not know what you worship. We know what we worship, for salvation is from the Yeraim. But the hour comes, and now is, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeks just such worshippers to worship him. Yahweh is a spirit being, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. The woman said to him, I know that the Messiah comes, and when he comes, he will tell us all things. Yeshua said to her, I am he speaking to you. So, warning from Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24-27. And let us consider one another, how we may urge one another on toward love and righteous works, not forsaking the gathering of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. For if we sin willfully after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful expectation of judgment and fiery indignation, which will devour the adversaries. So we know that the book of Revelation is essentially it's explaining the judgment of mankind. We know that mankind fell, right, into sin because of the first Adam, the first males and females, right? So because Adam fell into sin, it is appointed once for every man to die, right? Our mortal flesh is going to die, and then it's on to judgment. So I did also previously explain these judgments in Warning the Sword is Coming, but I will explain these again in part 6 of this presentation when we thoroughly go into the dragon and everything of that nature. But so let's just go ahead and read let's read the cup of the wrath of Almighty Yahweh. This is going to be Yeremiah 25. This is the word that came to Yeremiah concerning all the people of Yedah in the 4th year of Yayakim, son of Yoshiah, king of Yedah, which was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, which Yeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Yedah and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, From the 13th year of Yoshiah, king of Yedah, even to this day, for 23 years, the word of Yahweh has come to me. Then I have spoke to you, rising early and speaking. but you have not listened. And Yahweh has sent to you all his servants the prophets, rising early and sending them, but you have not listened nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, Turn again, now everyone from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yahweh has given to you and your fathers forever and ever. And do not follow after hinder gods to serve them and to worship them. Do not provoke me to anger with the works of your own hands, with worthless gods. Then I will not harm you. Yet you have not listened to me, says Yahweh, and you have provoked me to anger with the works of your hands, and you have brought harm upon yourselves. Therefore, this is what Yahweh of hosts says. Because you have not listened to my words, the law and the prophets, behold, I will send for and get all the families, tribes of the north, says Yahweh. For I will send for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, instrument, and will bring him against this land, against its inhabitants, and against these nations all around, and will utterly destroy them, making them an astonishment, an object of horror, a hissing, an object of scorn, and perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of joy and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the lamp. And this whole land will be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And it will come to pass when 70 years are completed, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation for their iniquity, says Yahweh, and I will make it a perpetual desolation. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, all that is written in this book, which Yah has prophesied concerning all the nations. For many nations and great kings will make slaves of them also, and I will repay them according to their deeds and according to the works of their hands. For this is what Yahweh the Father of Israel said to me, Take the wine cup of this fury from my hands, and cause all the nations to whom I send you to drink it. And they will drink and stagger and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them. Then I took the cup from Yahweh's hand and made all the nations drink, to whom Yahweh had sent me, Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, its kings and its officials, to make them a desolation and an astonishment, an object of horror, a hissing, an object of ridicule and a curse, as it is this day. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, his attendants, his officials, and all his people, and all the mixed foreign population, all the kings of the land of Uz, all the kings of the land of the Philistines, namely Ashkelon, Gaza, Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod, Edom, Moab, and the people of Ammon, all the kings of Tyre, all the kings of Sidon, Phoenicia, and the kings of the coastlands, which are beyond the sea, Dedan, Teman, Booz, with all who cut off the hair at their temples, cutting off the corners of their beards, all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mixed multitude who dwell in the desert, all the kings of Zimri, all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world which are on the face of the earth, also the king of Sheshach, code word for Babylon, before the captivity, who would drink last of all. Therefore you will say to them, This is what Yahweh of hosts, the Father of Israel, says, Drink, be drunk, and vomit, fall and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. And it will be, if they refuse to take the cup from your hands to drink, then you will say to them, This is what Yahweh of hosts says, You will certainly drink. For behold, I begin to bring disaster on the city which is called with my name. So should you be utterly unpunished? You will not be unpunished. For I will call for a sword on all the inhabitants of the earth, says Yahweh of hosts. Therefore prophesy against them all these words, and say to them, Yahweh will roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He will mightily roar upon his habitation. He will give a shout like those who tread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise will come to the ends of the earth, for Yahweh has a controversy, a legal indictment against the nations. He will plead, enter into judgment with all flesh. The wicked will be given to the sword, says Yahweh. This is what Yahweh of hosts says. Behold, disaster will go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind will be raised up from the coasts of the earth. And at that day the slain of Yahweh will be from one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. They will not be lamented, nor gathered, neither buried. They will be refuse on the ground. Wail, you shepherds, and cry. Wallow in the dust, you leaders of the flock, for the days of your slaughter and of your dispersions are accomplished, fully come. You will fall and be shattered like a choice vessel. And the shepherds will have no way to flee, nor the leaders of the flock to escape. A voice of the cry of the shepherds and a wailing of the leaders of the flock will be heard, for Yahweh has destroyed their pasture. And the peaceful habitations are cut down because of the fierce anger of Yahweh. He has forsaken his shelter like the lion, for their land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger. Okay, so from what we just read, who is exempt from this judgment that is coming upon the earth? Nobody, right? All of the nations have partaken in sin. So when we go to Jeremiah chapter 51, it says, verse 7, Babylon was a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunk. The nations drank her wine. Therefore they have now gone mad. Babylon will suddenly fall and be destroyed. Wail for her. Get balm for her. Get balm for her pain. It may be that she can be healed. But we know that Babylon's judgment comes last of all, right? And then when we go to Revelation 18, And after these things I saw another Malach come down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was enlightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of demons, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. All nations have drunk of the wine, right? Of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, so that you do not partake in her sins, and so that you do not receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh has remembered her iniquities. Render to her just as she rendered to you, and repay her double according to her works. In the cup which she has mix for her double. In the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxuriously, so in that measure give her torment and sorrow. For she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and will see no sorrow. Therefore her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Father Yahweh who judges her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her will wail over her and lament for her, when they will see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise. And I've already covered this. I read the entire book of Revelation, but we'll also cover this again in part 6 of this presentation. But no one's exempt, right? And then if we go over to Revelation chapter 6, we see the judgments for mankind detailed by the 4 horsemen in the book of Revelation. And these 4 horsemen are represented by the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? And we see that the last judgment is for the pale horse, which we know Japheth means pale. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat upon it was Death, and Sheol the grave followed with him. And power was given to them over a 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with pestilence, the same under the authority of the beasts of the earth. So we see that these sons had the power to implement the other 3 judgments, right? And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, one of the 4 living creatures saying, as with a loud voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. So this is manifest destiny, right? And when he had opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd creature say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was granted to him who sat upon it to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. This is Shem. So then we know that this is referring to Esau, because in Genesis, when Jacob took Esau's birthright, or his blessing, and Esau said to his father, "Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." Right? So, and there was given to him a great sword, that they should kill one another. And when he had opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd creature say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that you do not hurt the oil in the wine." So this is the Israelites going into captivity, right? The pair of scales representing them being measured to be sold. A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley. And don't hurt the anointed ones and the ones that know the word of Yahweh. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, in the name of him. We just read that. So the judgment is going to come upon everyone. Everybody gonna drink from that cup, because everybody drank from the cup of Babylon. So, in order to truly understand the end, we have to go back to the beginning. That is in the beginning. Let's start in chapter 2, verses 7 through 9, and then 15 through 21. "And Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Yahweh planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground Yahweh made every tree grow, that is pleasant to the sight, and desirable for food. The tree of the knowledge of righteousness and evil was in the midst also. Then Yahweh took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work and care for it. And Yahweh commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may eat freely, but the tree of the knowledge of righteousness and evil you must not eat, for in that day that you eat of it, you will surely die. You shall surely die. And Yahweh said, It is not satisfactory that man should be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. Out of the ground Yahweh formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would name them. And whatever Adam named each living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to all cattle, to the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper suitable for him. And Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took flesh and bone from man's side, and closed up the flesh in its place. Then the flesh and bone which Yahweh had taken from man, he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone from my bones, and flesh from my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and shall be united to his wife in his own house, and they will therefore be as one family. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they felt no shame. Now the serpent was more subtle and crafty than any beast in the field which Yahweh had made. And she said to the woman, Has Yahweh indeed said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yahweh has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, or you will die. And the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die, for he knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as gods, knowing righteousness and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was desirable for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Excuse me. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized that they had sinned. They had violated Yahweh's laws. Because they had not kept Yahweh's laws, they were afraid. Then on that day they heard the way of Father Yahweh according to Then on that day they heard the way of Father Yahweh according to the word of Yahweh, the law and the prophets being proclaimed in the garden. So Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh among the trees of the garden. Then Yahweh called to Adam and said to him, Where are you? So Adam said, I heard the word of Yahweh being proclaimed in the garden, and I was afraid because I had sinned, and I hid myself. And Yahweh said, Someone deceived you so that you would sin. You have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you that you should not eat. Then the man said, The woman whom you gave me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And Yahweh said to the woman, What is this you have done? And the woman said, The serpent deceived me, and I ate. So Yahweh said to the serpent, Because you have done this, you are bitterly cursed. I establish you over all living things, and I establish you over all flesh on the ground. But your ability to bring forth life from the dust will be taken away. You will go to your punishments, and you will be destroyed on that day by Yahweh, who lives forever. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. You must be led by your husband, for he shall rule over you. Then to Adam he said, Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I command you, saying, You must not eat of it, cursed will be the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat from it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you were, and to dust you shall return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. Also for Adam and his wife Yahweh ordained linen, holy garments, for them to remember his laws, and he placed these garments upon them. Then Yahweh said, Behold, the man has become like one who has begun to know righteousness and evil. And now he must not be allowed to put out his hand and also take of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. Therefore Yahweh sent him out of the Garden of Eden, to work the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life. Alright, so let's go and see what the word Adam means. Adam means ruddy or red, human being, or mankind, right? And it consists of the letters Aleph, Dalet, and Mem. And then Dalet Mem means blood. Aleph means ox, bull, strength, leader, or first. Dalet means door, pathway, or enter. Mem means water, massive, or chaos, right? So Adam, this is the interpretation from others, the first beast or man that enters the path that leads to the waters of life or death, destruction, chaos, or corruption, right? Adam comes from the Hebrew word Adamah, meaning the earth. The AH suffix in the word Adamah denotes a feminine quality to the word that is Mother Earth. And we learned AH is feminine, EH is masculine, right? We learned that in Prophecy of Yahshua and Messiah, part 1. Adam essentially means mankind or human being because he created them male and female. But it also has literal and figurative meanings. The Paleo-Hebrew meaning is Aleph, first, ox, bull, strength, leader, Dalet, enter, pathway, door or doorway, Mem, water, massive, chaos, and Dalet Mem, blood. So blood or bloodline, blood of the covenant, law, Shem, Ham, Yipeth, right? Water is spirit, earth, motherland, land of nativity, red dirt, soil, land of origin. Okay? Acts 17:26, and he has made from one blood all nations of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and he has determined the times before appointed for them and the boundaries of their habitation. And then 1 Yeshanim 5:6-8. This is he who came through water and blood, Yeshua Messiah, not by the water only, but by the water and the blood. And it is the Spirit which testifies, because the Spirit is true. For there are three which testify, the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and these three are of one accord. Okay? So this is what Adam means. Eve. And Yahweh said, it is not satisfactory that man should be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. Genesis 2:18. The Hebrew word for helper is ezer, the only word that describes the creator and the woman. Is formed using the letters Ayin, Zayin, Resh. Ayin, Zayin, Resh. Okay? The letter Ayin connotates an eye, E-Y-E. The eye represents consciousness, awareness, insightfulness, and the face, image of Yahweh. And we will cover that in part 2 of this presentation. The letter Zayin means weapon of defense, a sword, a scepter, a crown, divine protection, protector, power and authority. The letter Resh means head, crown, leadership, wisdom, or intellect. So then the term Ezer Kenegdo means the woman, the warrior soldier, ally, Israel's helper, right? And Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all the living. Father Yahweh appointed the scepter of rulership to King David's house. David is the tribe of Yedah. There's that AH, denoting a feminine quality. When Leah bore Yedah, the fourth son of Israel, she said, this time I will praise Yahweh. Therefore she called his name Yedah, meaning I will praise Yahweh. The AH denotes a feminine quality to the name. Correct transliteration would be she will praise Yahweh. The translation helps us to understand that Eve's intended purpose was far more than to just be a helpmeet, which is what we're often taught, right? Eve is the mother of all the living. Therefore Eve will bring forth the son of Yahweh, who is the father of all the living, all those being redeemed. Yahweh is the father of all the living. When the highest returns, he will rule through his bride, Eve, Ezer Kenegdo, right? So Kenegdo means like match or mate, right? Excuse me. Ezer Kenegdo, meaning the crown, the head, the authority, the scepter, and the image face of Yahweh. She will defend, protect, and bring forth judgment against the nations, as she will be a warrior for Yahweh. We are aware that when the highest returns, he is not bringing peace, but a sword, judgment, and recompense. Eve, the righteous wife, the woman, the wife of flesh. So then, Proverbs 18:22, a man who has found the right wife has found joy and has obtained honor from Yahweh. So this means that he has found Eve because she's the mother of all the living. That means that she has the spirit of the highest within her, and that she can properly be what she needs to be for her husband. And then the woman of flesh, you can also marry, for fleshly reasons. And it says, Luke 17:34, I tell you, in that night there will be there will be two in one bed, the one will be taken and the other left, right? So, not all marriages are righteous. So let's see the marriage of Adam and Eve. The marriage between Adam and Eve is the joining together of flesh and spirit, earthly. So this was an earthly ordinance or covenant for mankind. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall be united to his wife in his own house, and they will therefore be as one family. Bereshit 2:24. So the correct interpretation is a man shall leave Adamah, Mother Earth, and his father, Yahweh, and shall be united in flesh and spirit in his own body, temple or house. Procreation between man and woman has the same concept. So this is Ecclesiastes 11:5. Just as you do not know how the spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a pregnant woman, so you cannot know how Yahweh works in everything he does. And then Malachi chapter 2:14-17. But you say, why does he not accept it? Because Yahweh has been witness between you and the wives of your youth, with whom you have been bound together, for they are your companions and your wives by covenant. And did he not make you one flesh and spirit? Yet why did Yahweh make you one? So he could produce a holy seed. Therefore take heed to guard your spirit. For Yahweh bound you together with the wives of your youth. For Yahweh, the Father of Israel, says, I hate putting away divorce. I hate a man concealing this transgression of my law as if with a garment, says Yahweh of hosts. Therefore take heed to your spirit, for because you have been bound together, you have wearied Yahweh with your words. But you say, in what way have we wearied him? When you say, everyone who does evil is righteous in the sight of Yahweh, and he delights in them, or by asking, where is the Father of judgment? So we know that the Holy Spirit and the flesh are supposed to be joined, right, together. But we also know that when we sin, that causes the spirit to be separated from us, from our flesh, right? So let's read about the separation. Isaiah 59:1-8. Behold, Yahweh's hand is not shortened that it cannot save, nor his ear heavy that it cannot hear. But your own iniquities have separated you from your Father. Your own iniquities. Okay? And your own sins have caused him to hide his face from you, so he will not listen. For your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken lies, your tongue has muttered perverseness. No one calls for justice, nor does any plead for truth. They trust in vanity, confusion, and speak lies, scriptural untruths. They conceive mischief, trouble, and give birth to evil, sin. They hatch vipers' eggs and weave the spider's web. He who eats their eggs dies, and when one is broken, a viper bursts out. Their webs will not serve as clothing, nor will they cover themselves with what they make. Their works of iniquity and the act of violence is in their hands. Their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity. Wasting and destruction are in their paths. They do not know the way of peace, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made themselves crooked paths. Whoever walks on them will not know peace. Okay, marriage is ordained by Yahweh. Now the Spirit speaks very plainly that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared as with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from instruction which Yahweh created to be received with thanksgiving by the believers, by those who fully know the truth. For Yahweh founded by ordinance, established in his law, everything that is righteous and suitable, and no one is to condemn that instruction which can be received with thanksgiving. For it is sanctified, ordained through the word of Yahweh and prayer. Okay? Okay, so Yahshua Messiah, the head of the man. But I would have you know that the head of every man is the Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the Messiah is Yahweh. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, opposing, not revealing his head, dishonors, brings down shame upon his head, Messiah. But every woman praying or prophesying without the veil hanging down over her head dishonors, brings down shame upon the head of herself, her husband. For it is the same shame as if her hair were shaved off. For if the woman refuses to wear a veil hanging down from her head, then she should cut off her hair too. But if it is dishonorable for a woman to have her head shorn or shaven, let her veil be hanging down from her head. Now a man truly ought not to cover his head, Yeshua Mashiach, by hiding and opposing him, for he, Yeshua Mashiach, is the image and glory of Yahweh. But the woman is the expression of man's glory. For man was not created from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created on account of or for the benefit of woman, but woman on account of and for the benefit of man. Therefore she should be subject to his authority, and should have a covering on her head as a token, a symbol of her submission to authority, that she may show reverence, as do the Malachim. Indeed, in the plan of Yahweh, the woman is not to forsake or be independent of the man, neither is the man to forsake the woman. For as the woman was from the man, even so the man also is through the woman. But all things are from Yahweh. Judge amongst yourselves. Is it proper for a woman to pray to Yahweh without having her veil hanging down on her head? Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is dishonor to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is a glory to her. For her hair has been given to her instead of a covering. Yahweh's holy garments he ordained for men. And that's in Bereshit 3:21. So when you go back, you can understand. Also for Adam and his wife, Yahweh ordained linen holy garments for them to remember his laws, and he placed these garments upon them. So these were men, right? Adam and his wife. The spirit and the flesh, right? So initially man came from the dust. So they were spirit and flesh in their own body. They left the dust, Mother Earth. And, the spirit, they left the Father, the spirit, and was joined in their own body, in their own house, their own temple. And it wasn't until, they sinned that the woman was supposed to bring forth children, and sorrow, conceive in sorrow and things of that nature. But so just know and understand that this is talking about the marriage of flesh and spirit. Okay. So here, the woman's hair is her covering. So I know a lot of faiths, you will see the woman's hair covered with the scarf, and you, like some of my previous videos, you saw my hair covered with the scarf, but it wasn't until I actually began to understand, like, okay, so this is actually what this means. Maybe we should stop following the way of the heathen. But yeah, so woman's hair is given to her as a covering, so she should just have her hair hanging down. So no more hair hats, queen, because you are the spiritual head of your husband. You're his intuition, his crown, right? According to the interpretation. So let's move on to the serpent seed versus Eve seed. Cain versus Abel. You will know them by their fruits. For truly everything in the law through the plan of Yahweh has been accomplished through this. You will love your brother as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, be careful that you are not consumed by one another. I say then, walk in the spirit, and you will not perform the lust of the flesh, carnal passions. For the lusts of the flesh are against the spirit of Yahweh, and the spirit of Yahweh is against the lust of the flesh. For one opposes the other, So be mindful and do not just do anything you desire to do. For if you are led by the Spirit, are you not under the law? For the works of the flesh are obvious, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, licentiousness, God worship, sorcery, hatred, contentions, evil jealousies, rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, disagreements with quarreling, heresies, sects of factions of divisions, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, of which I warn you beforehand, just as I did in times past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. So in order for your spirit to dwell with you and there be no divorce or separation, you must be mindful of your spirit. Okay? I hate putting away divorce. I hate a man concealing this transgression of my law as with a garment. Therefore take heed to your spirit, for because you have been bound together. Okay? Clean the inside and the outside of the cup, baby. The fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, patience, kindness, righteousness, the faith, meekness, gentleness, humility, temperance, self-control. Such things are not against any law. And those who are the Messiahs have sacrificed the flesh, the carnal mind, with its passions and lusts. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become full of empty pride and ambition, not challenging nor defying one another, not being jealous of one another. Okay. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. Bereshit 4:1-10. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and she said, I have brought forth a man with the help of Yahweh. Then she bore again. This time his brother Abel was born. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And on one of Yahweh's Sabbaths it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to Yahweh. And Abel, besides bringing his offering of the fruit of the ground, also brought a sacrifice of the firstlings of his flock and of their fat. And Yahweh honored Abel and his offerings, but he did not honor Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So Yahweh said to Cain, Why are you angry? Why are you downcast? If you do righteousness, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do righteousness, sin is crouching at your door. The desire to sin is with you, but you must overcome it. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were spread abroad, that Cain rose against Abel his brother and killed him. Then Yahweh said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the soil, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. You shall be a fugitive, and you will be ever searching for peace on the earth. And Cain said to Yahweh, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall not be seen by your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth, for there shall be continual war, vengeance, and retaliation. And Yahweh said to him, It is established, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahweh set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Then Cain went out from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. So why did Father Yahweh honor Abel's sacrifice? Abel was a keeper of his sheep, right? And he represents the son of Yahweh, the righteous shepherd. Abel ate the fruit of righteousness, and he sowed righteous seed. That is, he sowed to the Spirit. Abel's sacrifice was honored because he fulfilled the law of Yahweh from the beginning. So Exodus 13:12, we see that you shall set apart to Yahweh all that opens the womb. That is, every firstling that comes from an animal which you have. The males shall be Yahweh's. And then Numbers 3:13. For all the firstborn are mine. On that day that I struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified and set apart for myself all the firstborn of Israel, whether man or animal. They are to be mine. I am Yahweh. Okay? So he fulfilled the law. Why did Father Yahweh reject Cain's sacrifice? Cain ate the fruit of iniquity, that is, he sowed to the flesh. Cain was the adversary, who scattered abroad, as it is written in Matthew 12:30. He who is not with me is against me, and he who does not gather with me, he who does not gather together with me scatters abroad, right? And then Genesis 4:9, then Yahweh said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? Right? So this is a perfect example of him just simply being the adversary. But also he was a tiller of the ground, which indicates that he ate dust. That is the forbidden fruit. His brother, as Cain murdered his brother, right? So when it says he ate dust, that means he killed or he murdered. And we can see that in Yeremiah chapter 51, 34 and 44. So it says, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has devoured me. He has crushed me. He has made me an empty jar. He has swallowed me up like a serpent. He has filled his stomach with my delicacies. He has cast me out. And then it says, I will punish Baal the Lord in Babylon, and I will bring out of his mouth what he has swallowed. Okay? And then a lot of people say, like, the forbidden fruit was an apple, but unless you mean like the apple of his eye, which is his son, right? That's what that essentially means. It wasn't an apple. It was, he ate his brother. He killed his brother. So although Father Yahweh chose Abel as his sacrifice, Cain was not abruptly cast out. Bereshit 4:7 says, if you do righteousness, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do righteousness, sin is crouching at your door. The desire to sin is with you, but you must overcome it. Okay? And then we can see clearly, when we go back and look at the fruit of the flesh versus the fruit of the spirit, how many of these did, Cain sow, right? Hatred, evil jealousies, rage, dissensions, disagreements, and quarreling, envy, murder, right? Revelries. So, yeah, that is essentially the enmity between the seeds of the two mothers. Excuse me. Yahweh is my shepherd. Hear the word of Yahweh, O nations, and declare it in the isles, countries afar off, and say, he who scattered Israel will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd keeps his flock. For Yahweh has redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him who was stronger than he. So 1 Corinthians 15:45 through 50 states, and so it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam, a life-giving spirit. Okay? However, it is not the spiritual which came first, but that which is natural, then that which is spiritual. The first man was out of the earth, earthy. The second man is Yeshua, out of Yahweh. As is the earthy, such are they also who are earthy. And as is the heavenly, such are those who are heavenly. And just as we have borne the image of the earthy, so will we also bear the image of the heavenly. Now I say this, brothers, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. So the flesh is corruptible, right? So no flesh is going to inherit the kingdom. So not the first Adam, but the last Adam. Not Leviathan, but Enoch. Not Cain, but Abel. Not Ishmael, but Isaac. Not Esau, but Jacob. Not Reuben, but Benjamin. Not Menashe, but Ephraim, right? Reap what you sow. Do not be deceived. Yahweh is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that will he also reap. For he who sows to his flesh, from the flesh will reap corruption. But he who sows to Yahweh, from Yahweh will reap everlasting life. The serpent seed, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Genesis 3:14. So Yahweh said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are bitterly cursed. I establish you over all things, and I establish you over all flesh on the ground, but your ability to bring forth life from the dust will be taken away. You will go to your punishment, and you will be destroyed on that day by Yahweh who lives forever. And then the Valley of Dry Bones, Yeshezkiah 37, 3-6. Then he said to me, prophesy to these bones and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. This is what Father Yahweh says to these bones. Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you will live. I will lay sinews. See how that word sin is in there? Sinews upon you, bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you will live, and you will know that I am Yahweh. The lust of the flesh. What causes wars and fighting among you? Is it not from your lusts that battle in your members? You lust but do not have, you murder and covet but cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask but do not receive because you ask with wrong purposes, in order that you may spend it on your own lusts, pleasures. You adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that the friendship of the world is enmity with Yahweh? Therefore, whoever will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Yahweh. Do you think that the scripture teaches in vain that the spirit that dwells in us lusts to envy? So much greater is the mercy he gives. That is why he says, Yahweh resists the proud, but gives mercy to the humble. Yahweh is the hope of Israel. Jeremiah 17, 15-14. This is what Yahweh says. Cursed is the man who trusts in man, who makes flesh his arm, strength, and whose heart departs from Yahweh. Whose heart departs from Yahweh. That's the divorce, that's the separation. For he will be like a bush in the desert and will not see success when it comes, but will inhabit parched places in the wilderness, a salt land not inhabited. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yahweh, and whose hope is in Yahweh. For he will be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its fruits by the river, and will not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It will not be worried in the year of drought, and never cease to yield fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahweh, search the heart. I test the mind, even to give every man according to his ways, and according to the fruit of his doings. Like a partridge that broods eggs it did not lay, so is the man who gains riches by unrighteous means. It will leave him in the midst of his days, and at his ends he will be accounted unworthy. A glorious high throne from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. O Yahweh, the hope of Israel, all who forsake you will be ashamed. For it is said, those who depart from me will be written in the earth, because they have forsaken Yahweh, the fountain of living waters. Heal me, O Yahweh, and I will be healed. Save me, and I will be saved, for you are my praise. The sword of the Spirit. Finally, my brothers, strengthen yourselves in Yahweh and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to stand against the wiles, crafty ways, schemes of the devil. For we wrestle not only against flesh and blood, but also against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual forces of the evil one in the heavens. Therefore take up the whole armor of Yahweh, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having overcome all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your waist belted with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with preparation of the message of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahweh, the law and the prophets. Pray always with all entreaty and supplication in the Spirit. To this end, keep watch with all perseverance, always interceding for all the saints. The sword of the Spirit, the law and the prophets. For the word of Yahweh, the law and the prophets, is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of body and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and the intents of the heart. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open to the eyes of him with whom we must give an account. And then Romans 13:11-14. And do this, understanding the present time, The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. So let us throw off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us walk properly as in the daytime, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in sexual impurity and debauchery, not in strife and envy. Rather humble yourself to our ruler Yeshua Mashiach, and put a stop to providing for the lusts of the flesh. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and went to make war with those who forsook her seed being those who keep the laws of Yahweh and have the testimony of Yeshua Mashiach.